Hey everybody, welcome to Triggered Care. I'm Alex, and today the topic that we're going to be talking about is trauma anniversaries. So, let's get into it. This topic was actually suggested by a fellow support group member, so thank you for that. And I really like this topic to do a video on because when I talk about this in the support group, sometimes people don't know what I'm talking about. And so hopefully this will clear up some things, especially if you're new to recovery. You know, you can hear these terms being thrown around and not really know what they're alluding to or what they mean or the implications of them. So, first thing, what is a trauma anniversary? The trauma anniversary is the date associated with a past trauma. Example, a date in the past of getting raped, of an accident, of a death, anything traumatic that got stored in your brain and scarred you and changed up your neurons. That specific date is something that your brain remembers. Your brain is very cyclical in thinking, so even if you don't remember the date consciously, your body is still going to remember that date. And so what that means is every year on that trauma date, your body is going to go through stress responses whether you realize that there's an anniversary or not. Whether you can recognize it or not does not change the effect it has on your body, which can be very confusing and it can be very scary. It can be very scary. So what does that mean? What kind of effects am I talking about when I say that it's going to affect your body? Well, it will cause a PTSD storm. Especially, the worst of it will probably be the actual day, but it can start days, even a week or 2 weeks before the actual anniversary comes. It can start having effects on you, and then usually after the day passes, it will take you a couple days to even recover from that, depending on what trauma is being triggered by the anniversary. And what that means is there's going to be flashbacks, both emotional and physical, and I've made a flashback video that I welcome you to watch if you are kind of confused about the difference between emotional flashbacks and physical flashbacks. There will also be a lot of paranoia and hypervigilant symptoms, which means, you know, when you go out, you're going to feel tense. You're going to feel like you're in danger, even though there is no danger. Noises are going to startle you. Anything surprising or out of the ordinary is going to startle you. Anything like that. And I have a paranoia video as well that you can watch for more information on that stuff. Another thing that I noticed during trauma anniversaries is I am very prone to irritability, either extreme anger or extreme sadness. Now, I am not an angry person, usually. I'm not. But if there's a severe trauma anniversary coming up, all of a sudden I'm going to be snappy more. I'm going to have less patience with my loved ones. I'm going to have less patience with myself. I'm going to, and what usually happens is that I'll get angry and then I'll become extremely depressed that I showed anger or that I expressed anger. And there's a really confusing part to this, especially when you don't know it's an anniversary and you're just going through this. There's a lot of confusion as to why am I like this? Why is this going on? The voices in your head will be loud and very difficult to stop. Now, voices in your head, in one of my videos, Tribute to the Voices, it's a story time sort of with my own art in there. But I talk about the different voices in my head and the savior and the angry one and the random one that says things that don't make sense. And when I'm going through a trauma anniversary in this PTSD storm that's going to start churning up, there's going to be a lot of voices in my head. It sounds like a room full of people. And I've talked about that before in previous videos as well. And those are going to be really hard, if not impossible, to turn off. I have gotten to the point where I have more of a level standing with them. I can throw my own personhood voice in there a lot better now with recovery, but it's still very difficult to get rid of those voices during an anniversary. And there's going to be a lot of infighting in your head. There's going to be a lot of voices arguing with other voices. There's going to be about 50 million perspectives going on in your head, and you don't know which one is right. It's going to make you feel crazy. That also contributes to the confusion. It is very chaotic in your mind when a trauma anniversary is going on. Your compulsivity will go up. During these times, I will sometimes have severe episodes where I start scratching at myself. I'll start biting my lips. Just noticing your habits and then noticing when they go up in frequency will help you kind of track down those trauma anniversaries. Because a lot of times, like most of my trauma anniversaries, it's not like I entered adulthood with all these dates in my mind, like, oh, well, that date's going to make me sad, and this date's going to make me sad. I was unaware of all of them until I entered recovery and realized that these things will keep coming back year after year after year, giving you these stress reactions with your body and with your mind. And it made me feel a little bit more in control when I did learn about trauma anniversaries, and it kind of makes sense in a way. You know, it helped me see myself in a better light. And lastly, what you might notice during trauma anniversaries is sleep disturbances and or nightmares, night terrors. You might be waking up a lot sweating. You might be waking up confused and sad. You might be waking up crying. Sometimes I wake up screaming. There's a lot of different things that can happen when your body is going through a trauma anniversary. And a book that I would highly recommend is The Body Keeps Score. Oh my goodness, but I forgot the author. I always mix up that author for another trauma author. But anyway, I will have the book name and author listed in the description below, so you can find that, and hopefully that will help a lot with this stuff. So, how I handle these anniversaries. How do I handle these trauma anniversaries? First tip is very important, probably the most important tip of all of my tips. Be kind to yourself. Be patient with yourself and allow yourself to rest. Allow yourself to get away from people if you want to get away from people. If you start putting yourself under your normal obligations and your normal everyday life stuff while going through a trauma anniversary, that's going to increase the chance of you having a mental breakdown and then feeling like crap about it afterwards, even though you really shouldn't be feeling like crap about it. You're under too much stress. You need to allow your body to rest. You need to make sure that you're eating, and you need to make sure that you're comfortable, because your body and your brain are going to make you extremely uncomfortable. So you need to make sure that you are aware of that and that you are taking the correct precautions to not overwork yourself and overstress yourself. Next thing, my number 2 best tip: support groups, especially the one that I always list in my description, the one for CPTSD. That support group has got me through so much. And yes, it's important to talk to your loved ones, and it's important to talk to that is, 2A or 2B of this tip. So talk to your loved ones, but the support group offers some validation and some understanding that is really hard to get in real life sometimes. So when you feel like you can't talk about it, especially not out loud, and there's thoughts just torturing you, go onto the support group and typing it out on there, and then seeing people relate to you, seeing people understand what you're saying, having people give you their own advice for how they handle their trauma anniversaries is extremely helpful. And it's extremely validating. It is an integral part of recovery to feel like you belong with a group of people. And I'm telling you, we're those people. We are the tribe of survivors who have to deal with this stuff. So coming into that tribe with us and talking about it and sharing it, even when it feels so uncomfortable, can make a huge difference. And it can lead to more epiphanies. And I will now refer you to another video that I made, Early Days of Recovery for CPTSD. I talk about little epiphanies, big epiphanies, and all of that stuff, which very much kind of goes hand in hand with trauma anniversaries, because it's making sense of your past and how it affects you today. My next tip, YouTube and vloggers who live through this stuff. Now, this is a self-promotion thing somewhat, but I'm not only suggesting me. I always have my list of resources on the bottom for other YouTubers that have inspired me in the past. I encourage independent research of finding your own vloggers that kind of speak to your unique taste. But, or even, what are they called? Blogs. That's the old one, from back 10 years ago, where people just type about their experiences. Finding other people or public figures who also deal with PTSD stuff and PTSD storms can really help. Or listening to their stories and their experiences that then trigger experiences and stories for you to, first of all, validate and also help those memories get out of your head, because those memories, those traumatic memories, are buried down deep a lot of the time. And lastly, for my tips for getting through the trauma anniversaries, is distracting yourself for a bit. Now is not the time for that much you should analyze to the point of, oh, I think I'm feeling this way because this trauma happened that long ago, right? That's good. A little analyzing is good. See my PTSD story. This video is just full of other allusions to my other videos. But anyway, you gotta analyze a little bit, You gotta figure out, why is this trauma anniversary going on? But then when you're in the middle of a PTSD storm, you also have to know when to stop analyzing. And for me, that's usually when I'm getting to crying and I get the chest pain and I get overwhelmed. When it starts overwhelming you while you're analyzing it, that's a good spot to take a break. And for me, I play video games, or I watch funny YouTube videos, or I watch funny TV shows. I do something where I let my brain compulsively watch something or compulsively play something, kind of allowing that compulsivity that's already there to get exercised a bit. But then the media that I'm taking in isn't triggering me anymore, or it's not making me more stressed. It's allowing me to survive through the time. And then after the trauma anniversary, maybe a few weeks after, maybe a month after, is when you can start deep diving into it and really taking a closer look at your past and writing things down and writing about it. And maybe writing is even a good distraction during it, but you don't want to overstimulate yourself, and you don't want to over-trigger yourself. You want to know what's going on. You want to get enough information to get out of the confusion stage, but you don't want to over-trigger yourself when you're in a vulnerable spot like that. And that balancing act is something else. I have been working on it. I've gotten a lot better at it. I've gotten way better at it because I used to just over-trigger myself constantly with the compulsion of I need to get better, so I'll just learn everything I can about my past. And doing that through trauma anniversaries can actually do more harm than good. So knowing your limit of, okay, I know what trauma is being triggered. I know when it happened, and I know somewhat the people involved. That's all you need to know while going through a trauma anniversary. And then waiting and diving deeper into it later will help a bunch. So, that is my take on trauma anniversaries. I'd love to hear your opinions. I'd love to hear your comments, your stories. If you have a trauma anniversary story, I invite you to email it to me, to post it on the Discord, to PM me in the Discord, especially if you want a video made of it. But even if you don't and you just want to share your story, I always appreciate other survivors' stories. I always love hearing them. So thank you. And thank you for listening to me. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching my videos. I've been having a lot of fun with it, and it's really therapeutic and nice. It feels like I'm making progress, and I have you guys to thank for that too, for even listening to me talk about my progress. So, links for everything is in the description, and I hope y'all have a good